Hello everybody, welcome to the CSS3 course. In this video, I'm going to talk about the positioning of elements in HTML files. Before we do the discussion, I want to show you the web page on the right hand side. And you can see that the web page is a bit colorful because I already set up a lot of divisions in color. So I'm going to show a number of possible ways to position your elements. So when I scroll down, I'm also able to contain a lot of random text. Okay, so how can I set up this web page? First, I want to show you the HTML file corresponding to this web page. So when we look at the HTML file, I have a number of headings, and I also have a number of divisions. I have this division called sticky block. I also have a division called static block, followed by relative block, absolute block 1. I also include a container that contains an ID called absolute block 2. I also have another ID called fixed block, which is a division. And followed by so many such divisions, I have some random text. I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 paragraphs for the demonstration of the scrolling effect arising from the setup of the positions. And then it ends the entire HTML file. Now I'm going to show the CSS file that gives me this kind of pattern. Okay, for this CSS file, I just have a lot of IDs. So for the first sticky block ID, I already set up the background color, the font size, and the color of the font. And for the static block shown here, I also have some setup for the static block. And for the relative block, I have some similar setup to show the background color, the font size, the width, and the height of the background. Okay. And for the absolute block 1 ID, I also have set up a division that has some color and that has some words. Okay. And I also include a container. The container is simply the solid border that surrounds absolute block 2. And the container is set up in this way. I give the border style, which is solid. I also give the width and the height of the border. Okay. And for the absolute block 2, I set up the font size, the background color for that kind of division, and I also give the width and the height of the division. And then for the fixed block division, I just have the background color and the font size together with the width and the height of the division. So how can I apply the positioning techniques to these divisions and IDs? Let me do it now. So let me put the two HTML file and CSS file together. So let me go to the first block called sticky block. For now, when I scroll down the web page, this block is not able to be shown. Okay, it is hidden. But how can I make it move according to my scrolling action? I can simply set the positioning of the sticky block to sticky. Okay, when I scroll down the web page, you're able to see that this block is on top of the web page. Okay, so initially it has some distance from the top of the browser, but when I scroll down the web page, you see that the difference between the border and the browser top will be 20 pixels, which is shown here. Okay, so this distance is 20 pixels, and the height of this block is simply 50 pixels. So the block is having a larger height than before. Okay, so you see some spaces under the words. Okay, and this is called sticky because when you scroll down the web page, it is still able to be shown. Okay, so what does it mean by the sticky position? Before we talk about it, we have to notice that the positioning techniques that I'm going to tell you will be able to vary the normal flow of elements. So what does it mean by the word normal flow here? The normal flow simply means that we put the elements one by one. So when you simply click on the elements, yes, you can see that the highlighter is shown to you. So when I click on another element, yes, you see the highlighter is shown to you. So when we simply put the elements one by one on a web page, we are following the normal flow of the element arrangement. So the positioning techniques will be able to vary the normal flow. That means we don't always follow the normal flow of elements when I change the positioning to other states. Okay, so sticky positioning is simply going to vary the normal flow of the elements. Okay. Then the second one is called static. So how can I demonstrate it? I can do something like this on the static block shown here. You see, when I set up this positioning as static, there is no difference between the changed appearance and the unchanged appearance. Okay, so what does it mean by that? Actually, the static value is the default position of the setup for the positioning. Okay, so we don't always need to include the word static when it comes to following the normal flow. Okay, so this is the default value, and we don't always need to show it up on your CSS file. So when I click on the static block, okay, you can see that it simply follows the normal flow position by putting it from the top of the web page to the lower part of the web page. Okay, and next I'm going to talk about the relative positioning. So let me go to this block. Okay, now it is placed at this position. But when I do something like this now, I'm going to change the positioning of this block. Now you're able to see that the block has been moved by 30 pixels from the top of the original position and 100 pixels from the left position. Okay, so you can see the changes on the web page. So the word relative means that I'm going to move the element relative to the normal position, or the position coming from the normal flow pattern. Okay, so initially the element was somewhere here. When I simply change the position by using the relative value, I can change the top distance by 30 pixels and the left distance by 100 pixels, shown here and here. Okay. Next, I'm going to talk about the absolute value. So what does it mean by the word absolute here? Let me demonstrate the thing now. Okay, you can see that the position of the entire absolute block 1 has changed quite heavily. So what does it mean by the word top here? The top means that I'm going to move the element to the place which is 300 pixels below the top border of my browser. So the distance between the top of the browser and the element called absolute block 1 is simply equal to 300 pixels, okay? And the distance between the left border of my browser and the absolute block 1 is simply 150 pixels, okay? So what does it mean by the word absolute in this sense? We have to understand the word right now. So the absolute distance is measured from the first non-static ancestor of your current element. But now, actually, when we look at the HTML file, which is this one, the division is simply included inside the body of the HTML file. So we can say that the ancestor for the division here is simply the HTML element. So in this case, we simply measure the pixels or the lengths from the HTML element. So that's why we will have the positions being calculated from the top of the browser and from the left of the browser, because this element has no non-static ancestor. Okay. Then we look at the container, which is shown in the solid border. Okay. Now I would like to set up the relative position for my container first. Now when I set up the border to be having a top value of negative 80 pixels, it means that I'm going to move the border a bit up by 80 pixels. And then I'm also able to move the container from the left by 100 pixels. So the distance between the left border of the browser and the left border of the container is 100 pixels. Okay. And after setting up the relative positions of my container, I'm going to move the absolute block 2. So what does it mean by that? Let me go to the corresponding CSS component, and I do something now. Now you see that when I put the top attribute to be 50 pixels, the absolute block 2 is able to be kept apart from the border of my container by 50 pixels. And let me continue the positioning. Now the left position is being pushed a bit further from the left border by 50 pixels. So the word absolute here is measured relative to the container. So why does it happen? We have to make sure that we understand the absolute positioning meaning. Okay, the positioning is measured from the first non-static ancestor of your current element. So the current element is simply the absolute block 2, and its ancestor is simply the container division, which is set up as relative. So the container is now the first non-static ancestor of your element to be moved. So that's why the absolute keyword is going to follow the position relative to my first non-static ancestor, okay, which is simply the container shown here. Okay, so that is the meaning of the word absolute. The absolute keyword here refers to the measurement compared to the first non-static ancestor. So this is the keyword. And this also explains why our first absolute block is going to follow the measurement of your entire browser, because there is no such non-static ancestor for block 1, okay? Then we go to discuss the fixed block here. So let me go to the corresponding CSS file. And how can I set up the positioning? Okay, I simply set the position of the fixed block to be fixed. Let me input further information about the positioning. Okay, now you can see that the fixed block is placed at this position, which is simply 600 pixels from the top of the browser and 300 pixels from the left of the browser. So when I simply scroll down or scroll up, you see that the fixed block is still keeping its position with respect to the browser. Okay, so when I scroll it up or scroll it down, the position is still fixed relative to the browser. So that's the meaning of the word fixed. Okay, then let us go to another point of discussion. Take a look at this sticky block here. When I scroll down, now the absolute block 1 is able to cover the sticky block. And then when I scroll down further, the sticky block is hidden by the absolute block 2. So what does it mean by that? We have to notice that the elements will cover one another according to some order called the set index. So let me go back to the beginning of the CSS file. This problem is known as the element stacking. So when the two elements are placed together, one element will be on top of the other one. Okay, so is there any way to change the stacking order? Yes, we have a way called the set index. So the idea is like this. The element with a largest set index will be on top of the elements with a smaller set index. So let me show you an example. So for the sticky block, I want to set the set index as 1. Okay, and then I can set up the Z index for other blocks. So for the absolute block 1, which is this one, I set the Z index for this absolute block 1 to be 0. Because I set up a value which is 0 here, you can expect that this absolute block 1 will be hidden by the sticky block, because the sticky block has set up the set index to be 1, which is larger than the set index for the absolute block 1. So when I scroll down the web page, yes, you are able to see that the sticky block is able to cover or hide the absolute block 1 because of the larger value of the set index. Okay. And then I show you another example, which is the absolute block 2. Okay. Now the absolute block 2 has a set index of 2. So when I scroll down, you can see that the absolute block is able to cover or hide the sticky block, which is having a set index of 1. So we just want to compare the set index in order to do the element stacking correctly. And how about other components that you don't put the set index? For example, the relative block and the static block. In this case, we can treat them as not joining the competition of the stacking. That means when I scroll down, they will be put at the bottom of the sticky block. Same for the relative block. Okay, the reason is that they don't join the competition of the stacking controlled by the set index shown here. Okay, so this video has already discussed a lot of topics about positioning. We have to notice the number of styles provided by the positioning techniques. For example, the sticky, static, relative, absolute, and fixed. And also, we should be aware of the set index of an element that controls the stacking effect of your elements. The larger number will come first, and the lower numbers will be hidden by the elements with a larger set index. This is the end of the video. If you have any questions about my video, please leave your questions on the comment section below the video. If you like this video, please give me a like and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.